Cam Newton, on his YouTube page, basically listed off every team that he'd be willing to be a backup quarterback for.
Okay.
I don't know if he expected to do that in the particular program, but it is him coming out and saying, like, everybody who might have questions on whether or not I could be a backup quarterback or would want to be a backup quarterback, because Cam Newton is like a type A personality, obviously has had a lot of success, and people gravitate to him. So it could be tough to kind of have that transition of power to being the backup with the entire locker room, as opposed to being the starter where everybody is kind of, looking to you for the answers. Here's Cam Newton at his youtube.com/Cam Newton. I don't know what the show is called, but I do know the backdrop fucking sweet.
Yeah.
And the hat is electrifying. Here's Cam Newton at his YouTube page addressing the topic of being a backup quarterback.
I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say in regards to my future in the NFL, and I wanted to set the record straight.
Hell yeah.
By saying, this is how I feel. There ain't 32 guys that's better than me. But I also know that I could also be a backup, and I'm willing to be a backup. Players that I will back up.
Here we go.
Number one, I'll back up Deshaun Watson. It goes without saying, me and Deshaun Watson's relationship, he was on my 707 All-Star team. I've grown to admire the person, the athlete that he is, going through a lot of turmoil, but I believe that doesn't.
Don't know if this is.
That's behind him.
Okay.
My number
You
two
might
person
think
will be
that.
wherever
Normally the music
Lamar
they play,
Jackson
but
decides to go. Number three will be Justin Fields, another C1N product.
Okay.
Number four will be Tua Tagovailoa.
Mike White, but
Number five will be Malik Willis, another C1N.
he's not the starter.
All-star.
He's young, though. He's a backup.
Yeah.
That's
And
a big
I
deal.
would say there's three rookie quarterbacks that I would love or enjoy to groom. Any of these rookie quarterbacks, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
Any one of those guys, I would be happy.
Will
with
Levis. Why not Will Levis? Yeah.
One of those guys.
Number 7, Jalen Hurts. Number 8 would be Aaron Rodgers.
Hell yeah.
Of course.
Number 9 would be Josh Allen.
Makes sense.
And number 10 will be Sam Howell, another C1N
Over there with Ron.
alumni.
How?
But when you think about the list, it's really to the point. Now, some of those guys may already have penciled in backups that the franchise is probably okay with, and that's fine. I'm just voicing my opinion.
Okay.
And I'm just getting the narrative out.
Okay, all right.
All right, Cam.
Okay. There's a couple in there that obviously drew some reaction from the room immediately upon saying it. But we have to remember that he is Cam Newton. This is a massive step for him to take publicly, I think, personally. I do also like that he said another CYN.
Yep.
Yeah, the league that we kind of put together. Yep, we got a bunch of guys in the pros right now. Would love to work with them. He talked about grooming, which is a fascinating word because I wonder if places would be like, yeah, we want our guys to be like that. Fascinating kind of proposition out there. Pac-Man, you were going to say something in the middle. He was not yet done with the whole list. We want to make sure we got that entire thing out there, especially we like the fact if Cam Newton's going to continue to make iconic
Saga
productions. He has a great content.
Unreal.
He makes great content. So I'm happy that happened, and shout to him for that. What were you going to talk about though?
I was going to say this big news. I'm proud of Cam for putting this out. Like the big word of the day, put your pride to the side and let's ride. Like if you really want to play, he say he still want to play. Obviously, we can tell that he still want to play. The guys that he named, a lot of those guys he do have relationships with. I love the Carolina. Carolina is picking one of these quarterbacks real early. I think he can groom and one of those guys that go there. And he already have a relationship there with the owner. And he came out and said public like he don't mind being a backup.
Yeah,
and I like Cleveland. I like Cleveland. He fit that scheme. I think he can be a good backup there too. But I like this. This shows us that Cam really want to play football. He putting his fucking pride to the side and saying, hey, I want to play football. I'm not trying to be a distraction. I don't mind being a number 2.
Distraction.
So yeah, distraction.
That was pretty good.
Hell yeah.
That's all.
I was actually excited to see how you would work it in the middle of a word.
Yeah.
And you did it impeccably, obviously. And I like that. You're right. This is massive news because as soon as we heard he was throwing at Auburn again, and then he said that there ain't 32 motherfuckers better than me, we're like, all right, so Cam is going to have to be a starter if he goes to a place in his mind. And I assume a lot of places assume that that would be the only way to get a deal done. Now he kind of at least opens up a convo for a team to think about. Okay, like, hey, you know what he said about the little promo he cut for Deshaun, I think that's immediately going to get some people to stop listening, you know? I think just because, not because of Cam, but because of everything that happened that was very real, very serious in that particular department. But to his point, great O-line, they run the ball really well. If Deshaun gets hurt, which could potentially happen with that style of football, and he had a year off, we don't know what Deshaun is going to be fully. I guess towards the end of the year, he was much better last year than he was at the beginning whenever he looked. When he came back in, it was not great.
Not the same.
It was like, all right, $230 million. Is this guy even good anymore? We shall see. So that's not a bad idea. You think anybody takes a shot on him, Connor?
I don't know if anyone takes a shot on him because obviously his work ethic, like that's not in question, especially when he was in New England. Like the entire conversation was, hey, he's the first guy in, first guy out, great attitude the entire time. But you've talked about backup quarterback jobs before. Like it's not just like, okay, yeah, you're there to maybe come in if the main guy gets hurt. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes with it, with breaking down film, with doing all those things. And I don't know, has he ever really done that for an entire season before? Like, is that something where, hey, yeah, you're a great quarterback. You could probably come in and be very serviceable, and you probably are one of the top 64 if we're going 1 and 2 in the league. But also, if you've never done that whole entire backup role, can you also do all those things that go with it?
I think the big question is, what is his throwing motion?
Yeah, sure.
Like we can all see, you know, like old Cam, new Cam. That shoulder thing that happened, I think had a lot of people worried. So that combine workout, big deal. Like, or the pro day workout the other day,
At Auburn.
big deal to see if the guy is back to throwing shape that he was before he potentially was playing at New England when he was missing some things. Because he had that hitch in his, it was like a whoom, and then, you caught it. You had it. I knew you had it.
That boy packed.
10 and 10.
Throw the ball, Pack.
Good grab.
Iowa Hawkeye, pen it down.
So that was a hell of a take.
Throw the ball.
Hey, that was a great catch out of you, though.
Hey,
you need to be proud of
This is a
yourself.
great football. But like Cam Newton mentioned, it was a pick six where he dove at the line and he did he stretch out and his shoulder?
I think he landed. Did he land on it like this or like I forget exactly what it was. Check ball game. Yeah, but like him throwing, the accuracy is going to be a big conversation. The speed, can he get it? Because there was a couple skippers there with New England. And to your point about being a backup quarterback, like you're running the, you know what I mean?
The second team.
It's a lot of throwing too.
That's a lot of throwing, but
Throwing
not
way more than the starting quarterback.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I got a chance to throw for a lot of those practices the first couple years of my career. I'm throwing a lot of balls, a lot of picks, but also you got to put them. Like, it's a lot of throwing, and it's like a lot of workout. You got to be able to make every single throw, though. Not saying that I was, but not saying that I was doing that everything. I was throwing a lot of picks whenever I was doing it. But you got to be talented to be a backup quarterback with the arm. Like, I think that is almost a necessity almost for every team, because whenever you're playing a quarterback the next week, that is, let's say you're playing Joe Burrow the next week, okay? Okay, so your backup quarterback or your third-string quarterback in practice every week is trying to be fucking Joe Burrow. Well, what does Joe Burrow have that everybody else doesn't? Well, he has an ability to read defense really good. Cool, we'll be able to give you cards. What else? Oh, he has pinpoint accuracy. So whenever you're fucking covering him on this particular thing, that's a completion. Like, that type of shit's a big deal. Not that every backup quarterback has the accuracy of somebody that is a starting quarterback, but having arm talent at that position is another factor in conversating about bringing somebody in your team who's been a starter, who could potentially, if your starter starts playing bad, this is not Cam's fault. Not Cam's fault at all. It's just who Cam is. If your starter starts playing bad, you do not need the New York Jets MetLife Stadium, the whole crowd cheering for Strevler and booing Zach Wilson the fuck out of there. I mean, it's a delicate balance to figure out who you're bringing into your quarterback room to be a backup, because they have to be serviceable all week. Not that Cam wouldn't be. I'm just saying that is a conversation. And also has to be an additive to everything. Nowhere near a distracting thing. And once again, that's not Cam's fault. It just could potentially be who Cam is at this point in life.
I was looking at the list, and I feel like the one that makes potentially the most sense is the Bears and Justin Fields, because I don't think that booing situation to bring Cam in would potentially happen with Justin Fields. And obviously they have a good relationship.
I was talking in the locker room. Like what you saw happen on the fans, like that type of thing happening in the locker room.
All the guys wearing the shirts while Zach Wilson's still
Oh,
there.
that
They're
for
wearing
sure.
Like
the
all
white
that type
fucking-
of shit,
yeah.
though. Like I'm just saying, like not let the fans as well, but also like the sideline being like, what are we doing? We got fucking Cam Newton here, you know, and like that's a tough thing to balance.
I know, but it does balance though, because you got to look at the teams and the different names that he said. It don't matter how bad Watson play, his ass is a backup. He got $230 million guaranteed.
Yeah,
all right, so that's not going to be a distraction. A-Rod, it don't matter how bad Aaron Rodgers is playing.
That's true.
Cam is going to be a fucking backup. Josh Allen,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how bad Josh Allen is playing. He's going to be a backup. Jalen Hurts, doesn't matter how bad Jalen is playing. He's going to be a backup.
Agreed.
Tua, still going to be a backup.
So that's
Only way Tua lose his position if
He gets hurt.
cannot play.
I know, but what if he gets
Tua
hurt?
I'm saying they might need him.
Then they need a great
they
backup,
might need
and
a
Cam's a
great
great backup. But god damn it, if Cam then starts, and then that's a whole.
No.
He'd be third
Man,
string.
Tua had the best numbers out
they
of
pick up?
all
Mike
these
White?
quarterbacks on the list.
They
when
picked
he
up
was
Mike White. You pick up Mike White or Cam Newton if you're in the Miami Dolphins offense.
Yeah, 2 years.
In the
16
Miami
mil.
Dolphins offense. Not
Mike White.
Yeah, exactly. In the Miami Dolphins offense. No offense,
Mike
we're not
White.
saying Mike White will take
Yeah.
over Cam Newton every single day, every single
No,
offense.
he got to fit a different offense.
But in that Miami offense,
Yeah.
like Mike White almost like built for it. Not that he's not a mobile quarterback, but it's like Mike White
Accurate.
is a guy with the arm.
Also, like I know Cam said that like he's willing to be a backup, and like that's good. That's good to know. It's a nice like next step. But the first thing he still says is like there aren't 32 guys better than me. So if it gets to a point where he goes to a place and like the guy ahead of him maybe isn't playing well, but they're like, hey, we're sticking with him. Like, is he going to be okay with like still doing all the backup responsibilities when in his head he's thinking like, well, this is bullshit. Like I'm better than this guy. I should be playing.
And isn't it interesting? You always want your backup to prepare like a starter and have the mindset of a starter.
Right.
But like a couple of them names are like his little brothers. Like he had these kids 10th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, 12th grade, help them go to college, then getting drafted, having them come back, speak at the C1N events. So like it's deeper than I think some people know. I don't think he would be a distraction to.
He could also, to your point, if he knows him that well for that long, he can say like, hey, at this moment, you're allowed to go say, I don't want that to happen. Like if you don't want this play in the playbook, you're allowed to go say, nah, we ain't doing that. Like that is what an NFL quarterback does versus what a college quarterback does or a high school quarterback. Like at this moment, you got to go up to your wide receiver right there and tell him, I need you at 12 yards. That is you. This is what you have to do in the NFL. That's the type of thing that I think I've talked about this before, that I wish like Andrew Luck was able to see Peyton Manning. Not comparing Peyton Manning and Cam Newton. That'd be very disrespectful. I get that. I'm just talking about what veteran quarterbacks have done, experienced, and seen behind the scenes that young guys can't. You become like a CEO almost of a fucking operation.
$billion.
Especially Andrew Luck. Like, Andrew, congratulations. You're 22 years old. There's actually a 40-year-old on this team in Adam Vinatieri, but you are the one that is going to make this whole thing go however you want it to go. I wish Andrew would have been able to see Peyton say like, nah, this guy's staying on the team. Why? Because I like him.
Need him.
Like, this is a guy that I have a good chemistry with, and he would help us out. Like Griff Whalen, for instance. Like, that was his roommate in college.
Yeah.
I think Andrew didn't want to appear to be any bias or anything, but anytime Griff was on the field, Griff was getting the ball on third down for a first down. It was like, hey, Andrew, you're allowed to go say, hey, this guy's going to be on the fucking field for third downs because I like him. Like, that's the difference between being in the NFL and getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars as opposed to college where the coaches are the dictators pretty much.
Yeah.
It is overnight situation. And that's the type of thing that Cam could say to a young quarterback and be like, hey, here's where you kind of got to have a bad conversation. You got to go tell your offensive line that like, hey, let's go. We need to be on the same page. We got to do this whole thing together. Don't disrespect them because we still need them to be on your side, but you're allowed to have a little accountability. They'll respect you more if you do that. It's a fascinating little balance of being an adult and then also being the youngest person on the roster. It'd be great if he does view those guys as little brothers and not trying to like overtake them or anything like that.